Welcome to what is, extraordinary enough, the 35th annual Symposium of the Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi Society, under this wonderful title, The Alchemy of Love. So given this title, I thought it was inevitable that we should also be thinking about the other great event which is taking place today, just down the road from us in Windsor, where there will be the spectacle of the royal wedding. And this will be watched by millions and millions of people all over the globe on television. And they will do this largely, I think, because weddings are a universal symbol of love and of joy and happiness. They represent the power of love and our commitment to its continuance and expression in our lives. And there is, I suppose, the additional symbolism of royalty, which, despite all the paparazzi and the kind of celebrity culture surrounding it, is still essentially a symbol of nobility, and so kind of a representation of the nobler part of ourselves. And thinking about this sort of prompted thoughts about our understanding of love and its transforming power to bring hope and happiness into our lives, and how we conceive of its fulfillment. So in the common conception of the love story in our culture that we are used to seeing portrayed in romantic novels and numerous films, the trajectory of love leads the protagonist step by step towards marriage, or at least to a permanent, even eternal commitment to each other. There are trials and tribulations along the way, and periods of estrangement and absence. And in the very best examples of the genre, the novels of Jane Austen, for example, these are very explicitly seen as opportunities of personal transformation through which the two protagonists become suitable for each other. They change, they have to drop their prejudice and misconceptions about what love is and who they are, and they have to learn about the necessities of love. But these periods are seen as temporary and essentially undesirable, and the emphasis is firmly placed upon an envisaged resolution of all these problems in a state of permanent union, living happily ever after, as the fairy tales say. And the same symbolic journey is also at the heart of the Christian spiritual tradition, where the metaphor of the love affair and the final culmination of marriage goes back to the Old Testament with the Song of Songs, for instance, and runs through the writings of many of the great Christian mystics. Perhaps the most famous exponent of what is called bridal spirituality is Saint Teresa of Avila, who in her book The Interior Castle describes 7 mansions of the heart, of which the last 3 directly use the symbol of marriage as for the mystical union with God. The 5th, she describes, is when we first catch a glimpse for a brief time of our future spouse. The 6th is the betrothal, in which we take vows to marry and learn to love him. And the 7th is the actual marriage, leading to the secret union in the bridal bedchamber. But all of this, at least on the surface, is a very different symbolic world from that of the Islamic mysticism in which we will be plunged today. Or perhaps we should say Arab Islamic mysticism, because 2 of our talks today are on Ibn Arabi's Tarjuman al-Ashwaq, the interpreter of desires, whose form is based on the qasida of the classical Arabic poetry. And here the journey is not towards permanent union in any sense that we would normally understand it, but rather it is all about absence and remembrance. The moment of union is already behind us when the poem begins, and the first line usually describes the beloved's departure, often in the company of other women. Her image fades in the haze of the horizon as she sets off on her journey away from the poet. He follows her, journeying through the desert landscape, stopping at the campsites where she spent the night and lamenting over the traces she has left behind. He remembers their moments of happiness together and invokes the memories of other great lovers. He never reaches her, and the denouement is not reunion with her physical presence, but reconciliation to its loss and a change of state, a coming of maturity in the lover. Thus Ibn Arabi says, this is in the Futuhat, not in the Tarjuman, quote, "Many mistakes may occur in love. The first of them is that people imagine that the object of love is an existent thing. In fact, love's object remains forever non-existent, but most lovers are not aware of this, unless they should be knowers of realities," unquote. The great precursor to Ibn Arabi's poetry within the Arabic tradition was the poem of the Way by the great 13th century poet and mystic Ibn al-Farid, a contemporary of Ibn Arabi's, who was greatly admired by him and his followers. This begins in the classic Qasida fashion by remembering a moment of shared passion in the bridal chamber, and proceeds to describe the stages of trials and testing which follow the inevitable separation of the lover from his beloved. But the end result is not a return to the same bedchamber or even the same beloved, but to the attainment of a spiritual station which Ibn al-Farid designates as the stage of universal union, al-Jam. Giuseppe Scatolin, who is a modern translator and commentator upon this long and complex poem, explains that the whole movement of the poem is from a state of separation to one in which, quote, "the poet experiences the merging of his own self, Anna, in the whole universe, in which the one and the many are united," unquote. Similarly, for Ibn Arabi, the pursuit of love results not in a permanent union with or possession of any one object of desire, but rather in the expansion of the lover's heart so that it can encompass all forms of divine beauty without being fixated on any one, as he expresses so beautifully at the end of poem 11 of the Tarjuman in the few lines which I'm sure I don't have to quote to this audience. "O marvel, a garden amidst the flames, my heart has become capable of every form." In other words, in this tradition, love is not an end in itself, but it is seen as a powerful motivating force which propels us towards a greater and more complete understanding of ourselves and the world, and in the best of cases, brings us to actualize our potential for the highest degree of perfection and completion, al-insan al-kamil. If we've got a minute, it seems impolite, actually, not to mention Jalaluddin Rumi in a symposium under the title Alchemy of Love, as it was, I believe, a phrase originally coined by him. So just in case no one else is going to do it, I just want to finish this introduction with an excerpt from one of his ghazals. He says, "Let go of all your scheming, lover. Let yourself go mad, go mad. Just step into the heart of the fire. Make yourself a moth, a moth. Turn yourself into a stranger. Raise your house down to the ground. Then come and stand here under one roof, beneath the same roof, and live amongst the lovers. Scrape your breast like a plate clean of envy with cascades of water. Then fill up like a chalice with the wine of love. Metamorphose purely into soul. Make yourself worthy of the soulmate. As your spirit rises in the air from the sweetness of our tale, efface yourself and like the lovers be legendary." So having neatly come to the issue of ascension, you say this is the journey that I hope we're going to embark upon today.